Prashanti, no, Gauri, I was telling you that so this is to break your reference frames. So you have a reference frame in which nothing can be conscious without air. So this is now telling you that this being was conscious without air. So it is addressing you only. Okay. We are not talking of any other hypothetical situations. This Ved is for you. Let me go back and share the screen once more. I don't know where is this. Yeah. Okay. Folks, please study the first day itself. I'm telling you. Otherwise, see, it will be like this. You think that, oh, very easy, and then every word is difficult. Okay, please. You within the next 24 hours, you must go back and revise what was taught. Ideally, you should revise immediately after the class, and you should spend some more time over the week and ponder over it as well. Okay. We are all done here. I will first take you to Manusmriti and tell you something which was easier, described more easily there. Okay, you can see this, right? So this is the first chapter, 5th verse. Okay. Asit idam tamo bhutam aprajnatam alakshanam apratarkyam avijneyam prasuptam eva sarvatah. So this is the same thing exactly from the Nasadiya Sukta. Almost you can say Manu has written in Manusmriti, or his students have written in Manusmriti, that at that time, all this idam, this matter, this everything that makes up this universe was tamo bhutam. It was lying in darkness. Aprajnatam, it could not be known. It did not have any properties by which it could be known. Alakshanam, it did not have any distinctive traits in it. Apratarkyam, you cannot reason it out. So you cannot go back and through Anuman, through what is Pratyaksh today, as the scientists are trying to do, that we go back in time and say that, okay, we'll be able to figure out what it was. So this is saying very clearly that it was apratarkyam. You cannot, through tark, you cannot achieve it. Avijneyam, it is again in a different way, that it was unknowable. Even if you looked at it from your mind's eye, it was something which cannot be known fully. Prasuptam eva sarvataha. In all places, from all sides, it was lying as if asleep. Okay. So this, I think, might be simpler for you to understand, but this is the sar of the essence of those last two mantras as well. Any questions are here?
Which are the things that are unknowable?
Matter.
Already
The state in which matter existed as that singularity is something which even in your imagination, or even if you sat in meditation and the very enlightened people can in their meditation see things which ordinary people like us are not able to access. They are able to access those things. So here, even in this Nasadiya Sukta, we will be seeing how it talks about how these enlightened ones come to know certain things which are not obvious to us. Even for them, this is not fully knowable. there are some things which are beyond the reach of the limited soul.
Okay, thank you.
You don't have to thank me every time. Okay, all right. See, now I have shown you now one text where directly from Nasadiya Sukta, you can see how almost verbatim Manu Smriti has the same thing said. Then you will be able to appreciate how in the Puranas and in later texts such nonsense has crept in, which has no bearing in reality, which talks about earth resting on some tortoise and then tortoise resting on something and something resting on something. Probably you know that thing better, fable. uh, these things do not exist in our philosophy. We are not so stupid, to be very blunt. Okay, as is, you can see the element of fact through and through. Now also scientists are coming close to what is being said over here.
Uttara Bhagini, something is touching your microphone often, making very heavy splashes. Difficult for us when that happens.
Oh, I see. Might be my fingers. Okay, I will try and avoid touching my keyboard too much. But I have to touch it. What to do? Okay, I'll try. Let's see. You let me know when you get it next. Okay. So now before we start the rest of the session, I had to tell you about the cause and effect relationship between transformations of matter. So the Sankhya students, of course, they know, but for new students, I need to repeat this. So any transformation which takes place, so in which something A changes into something B, then there are certain elements which are involved in such a transformation when we talk about it in philosophy. Let me see, I will try and bring it up 1 minute. Let me just stop this share. Are you getting the sound now, Anuj?
No, it was better. No, I didn't get it. Something else, as if some cloth was brushing, that kind of sound was coming.
I think it is my fingers only, probably. So, in a transformation, the easiest way to look at a transformation is through the example of the potter and the making of the pot, a clay pot. So, a potter has a potter's wheel on which he has put some clay, and then he rotates the wheel with a stick. And the I think you don't need this. This might be distracting you. So you put the clay on the wheel, and with the stick, the potter will move the wheel. And as the wheel rotates with his hands, he will shape the clay into whatever object he wants to make. So here the clay is getting transformed from a lump of clay into, say, a cup. 1 second, please. Sorry. So it is now transforming into a cup. So when we look at this transformation, which is easily comprehensible, then there are several causes which are called karanas. So karan does not necessarily mean reason, but when we are studying transformations, then cause means what is the thing which existed in the initial state, which leads to the final state. The final state is called the effect or karya. So there is the karan which changes into the karya, and typically there is a whole set of karans. So we divide those karans into, first is the nimitta karan, that is the potter. This nimitta karan has the motivation. It is the one that sets this transformation into action. It itself does not become part of the transformation. The cup does not have the potter in it, but the desire to create a cup and the actions of his hands which created the cup, those are the nimit for the creation of the cup. So these are called the nimit karanas. Then there is a thing which actually moves from a lump into the cup, that is the clay. That clay is called the upadana karana. It is the thing which itself is transforming. That thing itself, that thing is called upadana. Then you have subsidiary karanas. All of them are which are put as sadharan karanas. Okay, so these are like the wheel, the stick, and at a very very generic level, time and space are the absolute sadharan karanas which go into everything. If you didn't have time, if you didn't have space, there would be no transformation at all. So these are the three subdivisions of causes. Nimitta karan, which is the motivating force, the upadan karan, which is the thing which changes. The motivating force is also called the efficient cause in English. And the upadan karan is called material cause in English. And this sadharan karan, to my knowledge, I don't know the technical word for it, but we can call it general cause. Yes, I had a question.
So, suppose ice melts into water. What are the karan?
So you can tell me which is the upadan karan?
The ice.
Correct. So upadan karan is typically very easy, right? Now, what is causing the ice to melt?
Heat.
Heat. So heat becomes the nimitta karan.
And the tools, the third karan is?
Third karan in this particular case would be time and space. And yeah, because the heat source, for example, the sun actually, whichever is the heat source, would become the nimitta karan. The heat itself is actually becoming part of the water itself. So to that extent, actually we should, ideally speaking, we should say ice plus heat have now become water. So we have two upadan karanas. But the source of heat becomes the nimitta karan. Let us say the sun is there. So that becomes the nimitta karan. And wherever the ice is sitting, that becomes, which is allowing exposure to the sun. And time and space become the sadharan karans. Okay. Sorry, yes.
No, the nimitta karan, there is like the ice just melts, whether there is a desire or a motivation of.
And so the nimitta karan here is the sun, that which is providing the providing all the necessary stuff to cause it to melt. Okay, but itself does not become part of the water. So nimitta does not always necessarily mean that the intention has to be there. Okay. Intention would be only in a living thing, but they can be non-living motives as well.
Got it.
Okay.
In fact, the pot goes through that kind of transformation after you bake it.
I didn't understand that.
No, just the same way ice to water, what Ahan was telling.
Right.
Pot also in baking goes through the same thermal conversion.
Correct. So these are the steps in the change. Okay. I hope no, I'm not able to see how much time is remaining. So anyway, let us try and do the
plenty time. It's only 15 minutes into this session.
Oh, good. Then let's do the next mantra. So the third verse. Tama asi tamasa gudhamagre.
Tama आसीत् तमसा गूढमग्रे
Apraketam salilam sarva. Tama asi tamasa gudhamagre. Apraketam salilam sarvamaidam.
Tama
अप्रकेतं सलिलं सर्वा इदम्
Sarvamaidam. Tuchena yadasit.
tuchena tam yata
Tapasastan mahina jayatekam.
Tapasa astamami ekam.
Okay. So,
But you pronounced apraketam. The text has praketam.
yeah. So since I split it, so therefore I put in the as well. Split the sandhi too. That is an allowed feature while chanting. So tama asit, tamasa gudham agre. Agre in the beginning of creation, same as tadanim, which we saw in the first verse. So in the beginning, tama asit, tamasa gudham, that there was darkness, which was darker than tamam, which was darker than darkness itself. Okay, so this is why we talked about the fact that Ratri did not exist. This is the beauty of the description, it is telling you that it was darker than darkness. Why? Because, we have a concept of darkness, we have a concept of Ratri. So actually, if you think about it, our Ratri is not completely devoid of darkness. Firstly, you have stars. And of course, in our current times, you have any number of street lights, car lights, this light, that light. So when we say, oh, it was so dark in the forest, for example, even in the forest, if you are walking in the middle of the night, the amount of light which is there is non-zero. I will give you one example. In Wipro, there is some research facility which is there for studying sound. So they have this soundproof and soundless room. Okay, so in that room there is zero sound. All sound is eliminated. And when you go into that room, you can actually feel the lack of sound. So all of us would think that we have been in times when there was silence and there was no sound. But when you go into that room, you realize that there is a difference between the silence which we are used to and zero sound. And in fact, you can get a headache in that room if you stay there for 5 or 6 minutes. We are so used to and need a little bit of sound. So similarly, even in our night, and even if you're blindfolded, etc., whatever you can think of, the darkest of darkness that you can think of, this state is darker than that. There is absolutely zero number of photons which exist, light photons which exist in that state. So that is why in the previous verse also it was said that there was no sign of night. Night is what you understand, but this was not really night. It was complete darkness. Apraketam salilam sarvam aidam. Ah, actually there is a visarg as well over here. So this idam, this which existed at that time, was a cellular, was like a fluid. Here again we encounter this concept of fluid to indicate that it was uniform all over. Sarvam aha apraketam. All this whole fluid which was existed was the same all over. There was no distinction in it at any point within itself. Already it was such a dense state, and it hardly occupied room. But even if by some means we could expand and go inside, it was the same all over. Tuchena abhu apihitam yad asid. Yad asid, that which existed, it was covered. It was, firstly, its name was Abhu. Abhu means A Samanta, from everywhere it exists. So this is actually a name which is for it at a later state, when it becomes the universe. So here we are just giving it this name. Matter is being called Abhu. So this Abhu state which was there, this was apihitam. It was as if it was hidden. And tuchena, and as if it was shunya, as if it was zero, as if it did not exist. And see, here again we are being explained why in the previous two verses it has been treated as non-existent, because it hardly exists. It is occupying no room, it is so dense, it cannot be figured out. For all these reasons, it is occupying negligible room, particularly when we look at the room which God is occupying. Now we start talking of the happening of creation. Tapasas tan mahina jayatekam. Tapasah, by tapa, that from this Abhu, one mahina, that is Mahat, is created. One Mahat arises, ajayata. Okay, so from the tapa of whom? Of God, because he was the only thing which was Sat at that point in time. So he did a tapa. He put in some effort, by which this Mahat was the first transform of primordial matter, which is Mahat. So a Mahat, is the root form of Mahan, Mahina, etc. This Mahina is in the third vibhakti, Tritiya vibhakti. So it is actually applicable on both sides. Tan Mahina, Tapasas Mahina. That means because of the greatness of that tapa which God performed was so great that from it this Mahat was created. Okay. So if I have to repeat the meaning to you, Agre, in the beginning, there existed Tama. There existed that matter itself is being called Tama at this point. Darkness existed, which was greater than darkness, or which was hidden by darkness. Tamasa Gudam. It was as if it was hidden inside darkness. So if you pack a few layers of darkness, then you will get an idea of what kind of darkness it was. Apraketam, without any distinguishing features. Salilam, sarvam, aha, idam. This thing was like a fluid, just like in water, there is no distinguishing feature. If you did not see the edges of the container, you would not know whether this part, how is it different from this part. They both look the same. So just like that, this was the same all over. Tu chena abhu apihitam yad asid. Whatever this was, it was in a very small format, and it was hidden. Then to take it out of hiding, to make it great, and that is why it is called Mahat, because this universe is Mahat. So that Abhu, which was Tuchya, which hardly existed, that by God's churning, by this tapa which he does, it got converted into something phenomenal. Okay, it got converted into this first transform, which is Mahat, which we saw in Sankhya as well. And this is again why I was telling you that Swami Dayananda said that the first mantra, what it is talking about is something even before Pradhan or before Prakriti. That is does not seem right to me, because see, this very first transform is given as Mahat, and it is not given as Prakriti or Pradhan. So therefore, that if that was not Prakriti or Pradhan, then we should see a transformation there as well. It may not happen as well, but I think it's that is not correct, that bit. Okay, please go back, have a look at it. I will update the commentary. I have not fully given you the full lowdown on this mantra. I've just introduced you to it. We are out of time, so we will do this thing, our Shanti part. But before that, I can take questions. If you have any questions.
I have one question. The Mahat is shown in Tritiya Vibhakti as if from Mahat, whereas actually it was Mahat that was the result. So there is a little contradiction.
So that is what I was telling you. Wait, let me share again.
Why do you say it occupied a very small space?
I'll just answer Anuji's 1 minute.
Sorry.
So, tapasas tan mahina. Okay, so this is how Vedas attain compaction. So we are talking of tapasaha mahina, ajayata ekam. By the greatness of that tapa, one another was born.
So the description of mahina is for the effort of tapas.
For both. And in the Vedas, you can change the vibhakti. So the vibhakti can will change based on the context. So on the one hand, it is matching with tapasas mahina, but tapasaha mahina. But on the other hand, it will become ekam mahat ajayata. It will go into
tapasaha mahimna mahadekam jatam.
Right. Kala?
I wanted to know why you said it's occupied very little space.
So it was so dense and so compacted that it was as if it was not there, as if it was shunya itself. So you can imagine the whole of universe compacted into that one singularity, which is actually what science is also telling us now. That yeah.
See, it is even there earlier, Navyoma. So because of Navyoma, there was nothing like space. So it was compact, is what we assume, I guess. Point.
There we saw Gahanam Gabhiram. Okay, that is what first gave us the indication that this was a very dense piece of matter. And now here we are being told for sure that this existed to chena asit. That means it existed as if it was not there at all. Yes, Ahan.
Guhal Magre Praketam.
1 minute. I will take Ahan's question first, please.
Okay.
So the matter before the Mahat and the Mahat, none of these are the kind of matter that we have today, right? Today we have like particles and all, but the Mahat and the before the Mahat, that was a completely different kind of matter.
So the matter which existed before, which is what we covered in the previous two mantras and partially in this mantra, the primordial matter, that is pradhan or prakriti, that does not exist to a large extent right now. There is actually some portion of that also lying around, but it is just as it is described, it is without apraketa, it is without any sign, but also it is not in that dense compact state. So that dense compact state definitely does not exist as of today. So yeah, maybe that is what Swami Dayanand was saying, that that dense compact state was actually the precursor of this less dense compact prakriti.
But none of these two were the
No, wait.
dog
I haven't
and
finished the answer to your question. In between, suddenly I got one brainwave. Okay, then this Mahat, which is there, it is actually the stuff that consciousness is made of. The stuff that it is called buddhi in our texts, and it is what is not the brain, the gross brain which you see, which when you cut up the skull and you look inside, you see one brain, that is the gross brain. But there is something which connects the soul to matter, and that is supposed to have a determining capability. It is able to determine what is what, and that is called buddhi, and that is the thing that is made up of mahat. So mahat does exist. Probably it does not exist outside of bodies, though there is indication that it does exist outside also somewhat. So as what, that I'm not very sure, but
and
obviously at this point it would exist without any bodies.
so Mahat can Mahat be conscious, or is that also like Sat not conscious?
No. Consciousness belongs only to beings. There are two types of beings. One is God, who is one, and then there are the souls, which are of such a large number that we cannot comprehend that number. So we will call it infinite. Though actually there is a number which God understands. So it's not as if you cannot count them, but for us it is very difficult to comprehend that number. So those are the only conscious beings, and there is a complete distinction between that which is conscious and that which is unconscious. All of matter which we see around us, it is all inanimate because there is no soul in it. And this body which we see, it is animate only because there is a soul in it. The moment that the soul departs from this body, the body also becomes inanimate.
And so we know the matter that is like all around us that makes things is all particles like electron and quark, but these two Mahat and Prakriti are totally different. They're not made of electron and quark, right?
No. In fact, like last time, Anuj had asked the question, no, and we had discussed, there is known matter is actually only, which consists of particles, makes up only 4% of the universe. And dark matter, which we don't understand, is 23%, and dark energy is 73%. So actually, there's a huge chunk of matter still outside, that is 76%, 96%, which actually is not made of particles even today. So you are studying only 4% of the universe at the moment, because that is all that we comprehend. For all you know, this dark energy may be Mahat, or maybe Prakriti. I don't know. Since right now we don't know what are their properties, and the Vedas are saying that they do not have properties which we can comprehend. So maybe it is. Who knows? Okay, Gauri, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what is exactly, how to break this one, no? Yada asita. Could we please break this?
Yat asit.
Yat asi. Okay. Yat asita. Could you please just break it and each word? There's a very long one. I'm not able to do that.
Tamaha asit. Tamasa gudham. Agre. Tamasa gudham. Agre. Praketam. Agre, and there should be a visarg here. Oh, that is what you were saying, Anuj. I get you. Okay, there is an
avagraha. There is a missing avagraha.
There is a typo here. Okay, so it should be navagraha. So apraketam salilam sarvah idam Sarva, again there is a visarga.
Visarga is there.
Tuchena abhu apahitam yad asit tapasaha tat mahina. Actually, tan mahina only. Tat is samas with mahina. Tan mahina ajayata ekam.
Okay.
Okay, so I will stop this here now, and I will share this with you. Yes, Prashanti, you had a question? Hello?
Yeah, just going back to what Ahan was asking.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me?
I am.
Able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So just going back to what Ahan was asking.
Yeah.
I understand. Of course, there are many transforms, if you if you may, the dark matter, etc., and all that. But the 4%, what we know, the universe that we know or connect to as the matter, is also another transform of the Mahat only, right? The Upadan Karan is Mahat, right? So I am understanding it is different transforms of that Mahat itself.
Of the Prakriti or Pradhan, which existed before Mahat.
Yeah, Prakriti or Pradhan. First transform is Mahat, and then it gets transformed into many. And what we see, the universe, part Upadan Karan is that only. So the base for this whole universe is also Mahat, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
So at each stage, something is being left behind. So 100% transformation is not happening. So we start off with Prakriti. I don't know what proportion of it changes into Mahat. Then out of that Mahat, what proportion changes into Ahankar. But definitely some portion of it is left behind. So there is some Mahat which continues to exist in the universe. There is some Prakriti which continues to exist in the universe. But the state of Prakriti which is being described in these verses, which is at the beginning of the universe, which is Tuchena Abu, that which existed in such a dense state, that definitely does not exist right now.
Correct. Agree. So
Bhagini, we have to do the prayer quickly.
Yeah, let us do the prayer. I think Anuj has to go somewhere. Okay, yeah, and time is running out. Om Swayam Vajinstanvam Kalpayasvam.
Om Swayam Vajintastanvam Kalpayasva.
Swayam Yajasva Swayam Jushasva.
Swayam Yajasva Swayam Yujushasva.
Mahimatenyena na sannashe.
Mahimate anyena nasannashe.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. No, I didn't need to rush. I only meant that the time is running out on the clock. That's all.
Yeah, okay. I know. Correct. So anyway, so that's it. I will try and make it more clear in the commentary, but please do go back and think over it.
No, Bhagini, it's not your fault. My fault for not reading. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Milama. Namaste.